Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for a Land Services SA webinar on the variation or extinguishment of easements and rights of way. This is a pre-recorded session with a live Q&A session at the end of this presentation. We ask you to kindly hold all questions until the allocated time, where one of our subject matter experts will be able to assist. Land Services SA is committed to providing an excellent customer service experience. One way we continue to deliver value to the industry is through our industry education program, where we produce a range of helpful educational materials, hold regular webinars, and host industry events. Our industry education program addresses key topics or frequently asked questions to ensure you remain up to date with contemporary practices. We want to help you set yourself up for success and believe that by helping the industry education will help reduce a volume of requisitions, meaning a quicker and more seamless experience for our clients. Land Services SA subject matter experts assist in delivering our industry education program, utilising their years of experience and respected place in the industry. This webinar was prepared by Sandy, John, and Jamie, our property examiners, all with over many years' experience across various positions in the Lands Titles Office. This webinar will be covering VE documents for the variation or extinguishment of easements and rights of way. We will be going through the panels in the document and any other requirements before lodgement. We have also included some definitions to help people understand the difference between servient and dominant land, and other hints for frequently asked questions. This diagram describes some definitions of terminology that we use in the VE documents, so you can understand what they mean before we start. Dominant land means the land is a favour of the easement, and in this example, the dominant land is allotment 1. Allotment 1 has the right to use the area marked A for the purpose that is shown on the plan or in the creation document. The easement on the dominant land title would show as together with an easement over the land marked A on the plan, with the creation document shown at the other end of the text. Whereas the servient land is the actual land that the easement is going through. So in this example, the servient land is the allotment 2, as the easement marked A is inside the boundary of the allotment. The easement text shown on the title of the servient land would be the same easement text for the dominant title, but it starts with subject to instead of together with. Another two common phrases you will come across are easement in gross and service easement. An easement in gross title is a title that is created in favour of an authorised body or government body, for example, SA Water, the local council, or a government minister. Instead of being in favour of land, the easement is in favour of an authorised body, so we can create an easement in gross title in their name. A service easement is a statutory easement that is created pursuant to the Real Property Act. They are only for sewer, water, drainage, or electricity supply purposes. These are shown as a service easement in the easement clause text. An easement title is not used for these. A VE document can be used for 3 different scenarios, pursuant to 90B of the Real Property Act. First, to vary, extend, or reduce an easement over the servient land. Secondly, to increase or extend the land that has a right over an easement to include other land owned by the dominant proprietor. Or thirdly, to extinguish an easement or right of way. A VE document cannot change the purpose, covenants, or conditions of the easement If you want to do this, then you will need to extinguish the easement and then create a new easement with a TG document known as the Grant of Easement. This slide shows page 1 of the VE document. We will go through each panel and cover what is required to be shown in each one. At the top of the page, you will need to delete the inapplicable wording, depending on what is happening in this document. The land description for the servient land panel should only show the title reference for the land that has the easement over it. The land description for the dominant land panel needs to show either 1. The land of the easement is in favour of, or 2. If there is an easement in gross title for easement, then the easement in gross title reference needs to be shown, or 3. If a service easement is involved, then there will be no reference for the easement and the words not applicable should be shown. The servient and dominant proprietor panels need to show the current, full name and address of the owners on the respective titles. If the name of any of these parties has changed, then a change of name document will be lodged before the VE in the same series. There are some exceptions to this rule, for example, ministers and SA Water. The consideration panel needs to be completed. If there is money shown, this does not affect the registration fees of the VE document, like it does for a grant of easement or a TG document. The existing easement to the extinguished/buried panel is where you need to identify the easement you are dealing with by showing the identifier and plan it is in, and what document created this easement, where possible. So we can make sure that we are extinguishing or varying the correct easement. There are 3 different options in the operative clause highlighted in green in this image at the bottom of the page. Option A, when you are fully extinguishing the easement as regards the titles involved, or when there is a full extinguishment, there is no need to have a plan showing this. Option B is about varying the position. A new filed plan will need to be lodged depicting the new position. And option C is to extend the dominant land to include other land owned by the dominant proprietor. So, you will need to delete the inapplicable option. This is the outer cover for the VE document. You need to ensure that you have assessed the document for stamp duty purposes and provide the Revenue SA document ID number in the box provided. A copy of the stamp certificate is to be printed and attached to this document. The new title instructions panel must be completed. If there is an easement in gross and it is only a partial extinguishment, then you need to make sure that you pay a new title fee for the title as well. Here is an example of a consent form that will have to be completed by the registered interest shown on the titles, for example, the mortgagees, leasees, etc. Ensure the consent form is attached to your VE document. When the easement has been created or shown in any plan that has planning approval, the consent of the State Commission Assessment Panel, also known as SCAP, is required for a VE document. If it is a very old easement that is being dealt with and there is an old plan or docket, if there is a town planning stamp on it, then you will need the SCAP consent. In a VE document, you have one dominant title, but many servient titles, and provided that they are all the same easement with the same creation dealing, They can all be dealt with in one document, with one number and one registration fee. This also applies to where there is one servient title and many dominant titles. As long as it is in the same easement, then it can be included in one document. If you have reciprocal party wall rights or rights of way, then you may be dealt with in one document, as they would have been created in the same document. When working out how many new title fees are to be paid, you only pay for one for each title in a series of documents. For example, if you have a VE followed by a TG in a series over the same two titles, you only pay for two titles for the whole series of documents. This example of a VE document is distinguishing party wall rights. So there are two different servient and dominant owners. You can show firstly and secondly throughout the document to show the relevant information for each title. Here's an example where the easement being extinguished is a service easement, or an easement in gross title. The example on the left shows not applicable in the land description for the dominant, as there is no title reference for the service easement, and the one on the right will show the easement in gross title reference. A couple of key points that you need to have attended to before you lodge the document. Check you have assessed the document for stamp duty. Check whether you need a SCAP consent. Check the fee calculator to confirm your fees. Check whether filed plan is required, and if so, contact a surveyor. If wishing to fully extinguish the easement, then make sure you find all the titles that have the right over the easement. All these parties will need to execute. Land Services SA's website has a range of educational and support materials to assist you in your day-to-day work. Our Industry Education Hub is a good place to start. This can be found by clicking on Industry Education Hub on the homepage of the LSSA website. A copy of today's webinar will be published on the Industry Education Hub together with recording of previously held webinars. This concludes the recorded webinar section. Thank you for listening. Please remain online for the live Q&A session with our subject matter experts.